Hello and welcome to The Big Fight, a show that is young at 22, the oldest running debate show on Indian news television. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. Two important stories that deserve a debate, and we are going to focus on both of them in this show today. Story number one, the RSS chief, Mohan Bhagwat, has repeated his position on Kashi and Mathura. He says the RSS will not be a part of any such movement, as its main job is character building. But while making this statement on Thursday, Mr Bhagwat went a step further. He said, why look for a Shivling in every mosque? Questioning the very point of that exercise. Now, apart from a message to the RSS cadre and people in general, this could very well be a strong message to the BJP leaders. Both Yogi Adityanath and Keshav Maurya, the Chief Minister and Deputy Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, have been at the forefront in terms of commenting on Kashi and Mathura. While the central leadership of the BJP is trudging more cautiously, saying we'll wait for the court order, should not comment on this, court will decide. Is this some sort of a strategy that we don't know about? That different organs will speak differently, thus playing a good cop, bad cop sort of a game? Or will BJP actually follow the words of Mr Bhagwat to not look for Shivlings in every mosque? Discussion number two. On the 5th of August 2019, a strong argument was made by the centre that this is the beginning of Naya Kashmir, promising the moon. The centre, which is directly responsible for the affairs in the state, could not stop patting itself at the back, saying that they have controlled terrorism. But then targeted killings have completely turned things around. The Kashmiri Pandits are up in arms, they want to leave Kashmir, and they're disillusioned. Non-Kashmiri Hindus and local Muslims are being targeted and killed. And questions are now being raised on that very Kashmir policy, which the centre was so excited about. Has the centre fumbled in its Kashmir response? And what needs to be done from here on? So let's kickstart debate number one on decoding Bhagwat's Mohan Vaani. Why look for a Shivling in every mosque? I would like to welcome all our guests this evening. Tehseen Poonawala is a political analyst, supports the Congress party. Mahesh Verma, leader of the BJP. Sabha Naqvi, noted author as well as senior journalist. Raghav Avasthi, lawyer and an RSS supporter. Professor Bhuvan Joshi Bhaskar is a spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. And Smita Prakash, editor of ANI. Thank you very much to all of you. Let me begin with you first, Mr. Mahesh Verma. This message by the RSS chief is, on the face of it, a very, very important message. But questions are now being raised on whether the BJP is going to follow this advice or not. What is your view?
बीजेपी के इसको फॉलो करने का या नहीं करने की बात नहीं है, ये देश की बात है। देश दुनिया में जिस तरह से मस्जिद, मुसलमान, दीन, ईमान और इस्लाम के नाम पर जिस तरह से देश को बदनाम करने की कोशिश की जा रही थी, निश्चित रूप से सरसंचालक जी का ये जो बयान है हृदय स्पर्शी है और इसको कौन नहीं सराहेगा।
मैं आपको बताऊं एक चीज, देखिए 1 दिसंबर 2021 केशव प्रसाद मौर्य का बयान, जिसमें वो साफ साफ अपने ट्वीट में लिखते हैं, क्या ही राइट्स कि अब अयोध्या हो गया, अब मथुरा की बारी। 1 दिसंबर 2021, दैट इज हिज ट्वीट। उसके बाद योगी आदित्यनाथ का 30 मई 2022 का बयान, जिसमें वो कह रहे हैं कि अयोध्या हो गया, अब काशी और मथुरा के जगने की बारी। Then your central leadership says, JP Nadda in his press conference of Modi at 8, he says that the courts will decide. And Mohan Bhagwat says this. मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि क्या चीज में विश्वास करें। सब लोग अलग अलग बात कर रहे हैं।
आप इस देश के कानून और संविधान में विश्वास रखें और ये उन लोगों से पूछिए जो इस नाम पर आतंक काटे हुए हैं, जो इस नाम पर किस तरह से उबाल लिए हुए हैं कि देश के विदेश मंत्री के सामने ये सवाल उठाया जा रहा है कि आपके देश में मस्जिद सुरक्षित नहीं है, इस्लाम सुरक्षित नहीं है। देश में कोरोना के ऊपर या कोरोना को लेकर जो हमारी उपलब्धि है या हम जिस तरह से काम कर रहे हैं, अपने कामों को हम अच्छी तरह से अंजाम दे रहे हैं, उसके ऊपर सवाल जो है
तो सवाल
ना
पूछने में क्या
उठाते
दिक्कत है? इफ पीपल आर आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस यू
पूछा
आंसर।
जाए, लेकिन कम से कम उस दायरे में पूछा जाए।
नहीं, क्या, व्हाट इज द दायरा
जो समझ में आता है?
You see, the
अब
reason
ये-
why these
ये-
questions are being asked is because comments are being made, and then different people are making different comments, so one does not know.
अब इसको नहीं, तो आप इस कमेंट्स को भी तो कहीं ना कहीं उजागर करिए, जो मदनी साहब कह रहे हैं। मदनी साहब जब कुछ कहते हैं, इस देश के और जो मुल्ला मौलवी करते हैं, इस देश में और जो मुसलमान के नाम पर जो अपने ईमान और धर्म का वास्ता देके जो राजनीति करते हैं, जब वो कुछ बोलते हैं तो उस ट्वीट को जो है
वो बिल्कुल आप वो बात कीजिए ना, but the point over here being made is that here is something which Smita Prakash, I want to come to you now.
नहीं,
One moment.
एक मिनट। मौर्या जी ने कब उठाया, सेंट्रल लीडरशिप ने कब उठाया, और हमारे और नेताओं ने कब उठाया?
मैंने आपको डेट्स बता दी।
लोगों ने उबाल लिया। वो आप उनसे पहले उनका निकालिए, कांग्रेस के हिंदू और हिंदुत्व का निकालिए, तो समझ में आएगा कि हमने क्या किया और उन्होंने क्या किया।
Okay, Raghav Awasthi, if you allow me, Mr. Raghav Awasthi, since he's an RSS supporter, he would like to comment first on Mohan Bhagwat's comment, and then I'll come back to you. Yes, Mr. Awasthi.
I think what Mr. Bhagwat said has to be read in its entirety, along with the qualifier that he made in the beginning of his statement. He did say that there is a special attachment of the Hindu side as far as the Gyanvapi is concerned.
Agreed.
Therefore, he drew a very clear distinction. He draws a very clear distinction between the Gyanvapi issue on the one hand and the other temples that have been destroyed to make way for mosques. So we have to keep that in mind. It is, of course, an appeal for peace. But my sense is that there are certain elements in the country that are quite intransigent. In as much as they don't, that they are not even ready for, let alone a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, they are not ready for an honest reckoning of all that happened. I'm sitting in Germany right now, as my wife is expecting, and she's a German national. And in this country, there are so many memorials that have been built. You go to any cobblestone road and you see these memorials which commemorate the Jewish victims of the Nazi genocide. And unfortunately, in this country, there are certain parties that don't want a reckoning, don't want an honest reckoning with what happened. And I think it's really appalling. And if you make a mention of what happened, then some people in the country who are supposed to be intellectuals, they indulge in what is known classically as gaslighting. And some of those intellectuals are on this panel also. And by gaslighting, what I mean is that they are going to tell you that, oh, there were Buddhist temples underneath.
Okay. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't even want to know, because I have very limited time and not enough time for us to engage in a personal fight. Though the name of the show is The Big Fight.
I'm not engaging in any personal fight. I didn't even name anyone.
Otherwise, we
have to have an honest reckoning with what happened. But I do appreciate what Mohan Bhagwat said.
If you have said what you have,
should not be allowed to fester beyond Kashi, Mathura and Ayodhya.
Exactly. Mohan Bhagwat also, Smita Prakash, you see Mohan Bhagwat, while making his statement, adding that qualifier, that rider, I've heard the whole thing. But apart from that, the last point that he made was where he says, why are we looking for a Shivling in every mosque? Why are we looking for trouble? Right? This is an important message, Smita Prakash, don't you think? But my bigger question is, who is this message for?
I absolutely. Yeah. So I think I agree with you. It's important, not just important. I think it's path-breaking statement by Mohan Bhagwat ji, and hopefully it will have the desired effect. It will have a calming effect on some hotheads who are determined to disturb the communal harmony in this country, especially in sites which are considered sensitive, which is areas of dispute where mosques have been constructed over a temple. I agree with Raghav that there has been no truth and reconciliation committees and commissions in this country, no acceptance or no even debate on this matter. That's a different issue altogether. But right now, also I think it's Mohan Bhagwat ji there's a necessity for him to speak about this, because if you know, tomorrow this Sri Rangapatna Mosque, there is this Chalo Sri Rangapatna, in Karnataka, where in a mosque they want to hold prayers because there's a Hanuman temple supposedly which was there. And then there is another dispute in Mangalore, also in Karnataka. And who's spearheading this whole thing? It is that Sri Rama Sena of this Mutalik. If you remember, Mutalik is this anti-Valentine's Day campaign, and then the pink chaddi that happened, which was sent, in barrels to Mutalik, and Mutalik was told not to enter Karnataka after that. Now he's back there and he has started this. So, I don't think the RSS wants, these fringe Hindu elements to take charge of the Hindutva narrative. Just like he came in, Mohan Bhagwat ji came in when the Dharm Sansad happened, and he said this is not what the Hindutva groups want, this is not what RSS wants, and nobody is calling for violence against Muslims. So I think somewhere the RSS taking charge of the Hindutva narrative and the Hindu sects or the Hindu groups, and saying that these fringe elements do not represent
So you're saying that this
Hindus.
is a message more for the fringe elements rather than the political dispensation? Less for the BJP, more for
and
the
also
fringe elements in
the
the
political
society.
dispensation so that they are not led by the nose by these fringe elements.
Okay, Tehseen, but then there is this debate which goes on, how do you define fringe in this country? What is fringe? Who is
Good
fringe?
evening, sir. Good
is
evening,
fringe
Sanket.
being punished, or is fringe mainstream?
Good evening, Sanket. Thank you for having me on the show, and good evening to all the fellow panelists. As Smitaji says, fringe. Sometimes, and I have a lot of respect for Smitaji, and I do respect him, but I fail to understand who is fringe. Because is Keshav Prasad Maurya or Adityanath ji fringe? Is the BJP spokesperson who come night after night on national television fringe? Because all of them are stoking this poison and this hatred in our country. Let me just go one step further and make my point. The RSS and the BJP have a habit of playing good cop, bad cop. Now, when we say that, and Mahesh Sharma ji said...
Why do you say that? Please qualify.
I'm absolutely coming to that. Mahesh Sharma ji said, and I quote him on your show, that don't you have faith in the rule of law and constitution in our country? He said that in Hindi, and I'm just quoting him. The only person, the only sitting chief minister to go to jail in contempt of court was a sitting BJP chief minister, Kalyan Singh ji, when on oath he promised the Supreme Court that the disputed structure will not be destroyed. And then, eventually we know what happened. And then you had Advani ji, who made this entire mass movement against the Babri Masjid, the Ram Janma Bhoomi movement, writing saying this was the saddest day in my life. So RSS and BJP, when it suits their narrative, and this is historical, when Gandhi was killed, they distributed sweets. Now they have Gandhi as an icon. They abused Ambedkar all through his life. Now they have Ambedkar as an icon. This has been their history. And I want to congratulate Raghav Avasti. He's on your show. His wife is expecting. He's in the beautiful country of Germany, a country I've visited a lot. Raghav, I wish your child sees those Nazi memorials, because the RSS chief Golwalkar wrote and he glorified Hitler in a bunch of thoughts. And I hope the hatred that RSS spread never comes to our country.
Okay,
and therefore I say
RSS... who that intellectual is.
No, Raghav's a friend of mine and I really like him. And that's what I'm saying. The RSS and the BJP, the RSS and the BJP play good cop, bad cop.
The biggest Brutus on this show is Tehseen. He begins by Tehseen Brutus. Tehseen, you're a Brutus.
No,
you begin by saying, oh, I respect Smitaji. Oh, I respect Raghav. And then comes the stab.
No, ma'am, I will never stab you. But if I take
I don't mind that. I think that's the thrust and parry. That's all right. Otherwise,
okay.
But this is all democracy.
Just coming back to the subject. Just coming back to the subject, please, Sabha. I want to bring you in here. You see,
just a second.
I'll come to you. Raghav, one moment. Sabha has not spoken, and Professor Bhuvan Joshi Bhaskar has also not spoken. Sabha Naqvi, you see the point, and I saw your tweet also on this comment that has been made by Mohan Bhagwat. Do you feel that this is some sort of a strategy that that Tehseen is talking about, that one arm of this parivar is going to say something, the other arm will distance itself, some other arms or bodies or limbs of this family are going to do something else, and at the end this is going to be some concerted attempt to attempt another political experiment?
So here's what I think, having covered the BJP and the Sangh Parivar and actually interviewed one of the Sarsang Chalaks, which is Sudarshan ji, at one point in my career. I think Mohan Bhagwat ji, even at the Vigyan Bhavan event in Delhi, which I attended, he says these kind of things and they are welcome. I welcome all the things that he has said. I welcome it all, but it actually has, first of all, there was never going to be an agitation on the lines of Babri. So I don't know why people thought that, because agitations take place against regimes and governments. Here you have a BJP RSS government sitting at the center. So what are you going to agitate about? You've had a court verdict on 9th November 2019, which on the Ram Ayodhya issues. What are you going to agitate about? So a long-term agitation was never on the cards. What is strategically on the cards is going to be short duration spurts asserting that this is the Hindutva movement. That is, of course, not going to stop. Anyone who thinks that's going to stop, when he says it's not literally Shivling, it's not that everyone's running around literally Shivling. When you think it's going to stop, you just go to social media today only and see. It's not going to stop. We must recall that today there has been a semi-clash in the town of Kanpur, where not far away was the Prime Minister because of the words spoken by a BJP spokesperson on a national television debate.
Wow.
If the Sarsang Chalak is sincere and says all prayer is respected, then I'm not saying anything strong. I'm just saying that these kind of statements can lead to problems if you are about holding the peace. But I still think these are good things to say. We know it has clarified that there will not be a big.
But if not followed in later in spirit.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
One by one. Yeah.
I want to make a couple of one or more layer to this. It is welcome, and also please note, and this I will say categorically, this is not coming from me. This is coming, there is an entire ecosystem of Ambedkarite channels which are getting huge viewership. And today Ramdas Athavale is a part of the NDA. Just see what they are saying. Go to their channels and see what they are saying. This I would call the subaltern voices who are not represented in mainstream media, not even the YouTube media. They have produced all these Buddhists. They have. Go and see. I'll send you some, Sanket. They have produced all these.
Okay, but just want to understand how you link it to this conversation.
I'll come in.
RSS knows. Can I finish?
One moment. Let us finish. Let us finish. I want to know.
The idea of digging into every past creates a problem. There is a problem. They know it.
Okay,
so
and does the comment
Gyanvapi,
does the comment assume great importance that why look for a Shivling in every mosque? Raghav Awasthi's quick response and then Professor Bhaskar.
Yes, very quick. So I think Sabhaji's last comment was especially insightful. And whatever the stratagem that is being employed, which is to somehow divide Hindu society, is something that Jinnah was a first-rate practitioner of. He tried that with Jain Mondal. So I am really surprised that people like her who have lived in India all their lives and have actually really prospered. I'm sure she has done really well as a journalist. And for people like them to, now speak from the Jinnah playbook, I don't think that smacks of ingratitude. And the second thing, as far as she made a...
Okay, come on. No personal attacks, please. Otherwise, I'll have to keep giving right to replies and I won't be able to move on.
I'm talking about what Dalits are saying. Where have I got? Go and hear those things. Don't live in your bubble.
I'm not living in any bubble. Dalits are all voting for the BJP.
You want to see me and you always want to get personal.
Let the Dalits speak for
really,
themselves.
have some brains and show some intellectual capacity. I have made a point. Go and watch what the Ambedkarites, the Periyarites and Ramdas Athavale have said. You can say what you like about me. You just come through and
living in South Delhi, going to Khan Market for 1,000 rupee coffee. Don't get to speak for Dalits of this country. Right?
Khan Market has also come into this discussion. Anyway,
yes.
Professor Bhaskar, please. Professor Bhaskar. He hasn't spoken, please. We are 18 minutes into the discussion. Yes, Professor Bhaskar.
साकेत जी आपकी बात का जवाब दूं उससे पहले मैं चाहूंगा जितने पैनलिस्ट हैं उनको मैंने बहुत ध्यानपूर्वक सुना है तो वो मेरे को इंटरप्ट ना करे मुझे अपनी बात रखने का आखिरी में मौका मिला है और मुझे अपनी बात रखने दी जाए मैं कहना चाहता हूं इस चैनल के माध्यम से जब से भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार उत्तर प्रदेश में आई है, एक वेब सीरीज चल रही है, और जो वेब सीरीज चल रही है उसके प्रोड्यूसर भारतीय जनता पार्टी है और डायरेक्टर उसकी आरएसएस है। और मैं कहना चाहता हूँ बड़ी जिम्मेदारी से आपके चैनल के माध्यम से, क्या क्या वो एपिसोड है, मंदिर, मस्जिद, मीनार, महल, मकबरा, ये इनके एपिसोड है। और ये ज्ञानवापी तक रुकने वाले लोग नहीं है। अब इसके बाद आप देखिएगा कभी ताजमहल, कभी आगरा, मथुरा, और उसके बाद जामा मस्जिद, लाल किला, ये इनके आने वाले
अच्छा सीजन 2 में क्या होगा?
चाहता जो जो नहीं, मैं बता रहा हूँ, उसी का बता रहा हूँ मैं साहब। इसके 3 पात्र है, मैं आपको बनाना चाहता हूँ, 3 प्रमुख पात्र है।
हाँ।
आप इसको समझिए, उत्तर प्रदेश एक ही पात्र है, एक सेंट्रल इसका पात्र है, एक नागपुर इसका पात्र है। और जो आज भागवत जी ने कहा है वो वेब सीरीज में लिखी हुई स्क्रिप्ट के लिए कहा है। और क्या कहना चाहते हैं ये समझना पड़ेगा उत्तर प्रदेश और देश को। क्या समझना पड़ेगा? और देश को समझना पड़ेगा कि उत्तर प्रदेश में ये चाहते हैं जो हिंदू और मुस्लिम की जो नफरत की राजनीति इन्होंने बोई है, इसको ये कंटिन्यू करना चाहते हैं, जो बोल के केशव प्रसाद मौर्य जी ने बोला है। और मैं उसको सेंटर में माननीय मोदी जी की इमेज को बनाना चाहते हैं, सेकुलर की इमेज की बोलने, इसलिए जेपी नड्डा जी ने वो बयान दिया है। और आज जो भागवत जी की स्थिति है, आप लोगों ने एक मूवी देखी होगी, कभी हाँ कभी ना, आज उनकी स्थिति वो कभी हाँ कभी ना वाली स्थिति, इसकी स्क्रिप्ट उनको दी गई है। ये टोटल
ओके, सो प्रोफेसर भास्कर, आप मूवी भी बहुत देखते हैं, आपने मूवी, वेब सीरीज सब कुछ बोल दिया। महेश शर्मा, अकॉर्डिंग टू द समाजवादी पार्टीज प्रोफेसर भास्कर, he says that this is a Netflix or Amazon Prime web series which is being played out in this country by the BJP, where episode after episode is being belted out along the lines of Mandir, Masjid, Taj Mahal, Jinnah. One episode on Khan Market also, because Raghav Awasthi just mentioned it, and then hopefully there will be season 2 also. How will you respond?
सही चीज आपने याद दिलाया। जिन्नात, मुसलमान, इस्लाम, इस देश में जो है सब चीजों को ये गिना देंगे और उसके बाद ये कहेंगे कि भाई देखिए समाजवादी पार्टी जो है इस देश के लिए कितनी बड़ी चिंता का जो है एक कारण बताई है। किस तरह से आरएसएस और बीजेपी ने एक आतंक कायम किया। अरे आतंक कायम करने का काम जो है अपने नेताओं से पूछो। जब वो एक वर्ग विशेष की राजनीति के ऊपर उतारू होते हैं और जब वो जो है दंगों के लेकर जिस तरह की बातों को रखते हैं इस देश में, शर्म आती है कि हम इस देश में रहने वाले लोग ऐसे राजनीतिज्ञों को बर्दाश्त कैसे करते हैं। और रही बात अब सवाल नकवी जी का, ये इंटेलेक्चुअल करप्सी कब तक चलेगी इस देश में? सलमान खुर्शीद ने क्या लिखा, ये किसी से छुपा हुआ है क्या? उनके बुक्स में क्या लिखा हुआ है? मैं पढ़ के बताऊं? आप सुनिए। ज्ञानवापी मस्जिद, जिसे कभी कभी आलमगीर मस्जिद भी कहते हैं, वाराणसी में एक मस्जिद स्थित है। ये मस्जिद कभी काशी विश्वनाथ मंदिर से सटी हुई। 1669 में मुगल आक्रमणकारी औरंगजेब ने प्राचीन विश्वेश्वर मंदिर को तोड़कर ये ज्ञानव्यापी मस्जिद बना दी। ये किसके पुस्तक में लिखा हुआ है?
नहीं तो देखिए, इसमें देयर इज नो डिस्प्यूट, नो, दिस इज डॉक्यूमेंटेड। माय पॉइंट इज व्हाट डू यू डू विद दिस इंफॉर्मेशन?
आप लोग का
you then build an argument that this should get reconverted to a temple.
मेरे नाम से फैसिनेशन हो रहा है क्या आपको और राघव अवस्थी को? Are you fascinated by the name
सवान नकवी जी इस देश के बहुत बड़ी पत्रकार हैं, बड़े लंबे टाइम तक आप पत्रकारिता में रही हैं, आपने किताब लिखी है, आपके बारे में हमें भी थोड़ी बहुत जानकारी है। लेकिन मैं जो चीज आपसे समझने की कोशिश करता हूं कि इस देश में साहबानों का जो साहबानों कांड हुआ उससे आप परिचित नहीं थी क्या? तब
जल्दी क्विक क्लोजिंग कमेंट्स, आई एम रनिंग आउट ऑफ टाइम।
मैं मदनी
if we go so back in time, very hard to compress this. Short duration discussion. Quick closing comments from Smita Prakash. The discussion today is getting very personal. This is not good. Smita Prakash and then Tehseen. Quick comments, please. Let's stay on point.
कानून से चलाएंगे ये बता दीजिए।
अपनी किताब बेचनी है। मैं बहुत बिजी हूँ, जल्दी अपनी बात रखिए।
We should all go to Khan Market. We should have the big fight in Khan Market. Yes. Smita Prakash.
Khan Market में चलना है, डिनर का प्लान है। डिनर का प्लान है सर।
Mahesh ji will foot the bill. Yes. Smita Prakash.
Khan Market और लखनऊ भी आ जाएंगे आप।
Can I just
Smita Prakash, please.
You know, Sanket, I think just to come back to come back to Mohan Bhagwat's statement, he had made several points in that speech, and I think what has happened, as we have seen in this debate, that the ultra right as well as the right is annoyed and the left is confused, because Bhagwat ji, being the youngest Sar Sangchalak, he really believes in this whole thing about debates and tark vitark and things like that, and he's encouraged debate, and as long as it's in this umbrella of nationalism. You see, they see all Indians as Hindus by tradition. He explained that because their nationality is Indian, so they become Hindus. Now, his utterings yesterday, that will confuse the Muslims. Obviously, कि हम Hindu नहीं है, they will say this, but RSS sees them as Hindus. Whether Muslims see themselves as Hindus or not, that is the way. So this is what causes confusion and annoyance. So that is Mohan Bhagwat ji and that is RSS. Now, it depends upon people whether they want to accept this as Lakir ke Fakir and accept what he says and go on that path or debate that point of view.
Tehseen, very quickly, 10 seconds, please.
As a nation, we need to decide that what is the cutoff dates where we will go about saying that, look, this was a historical wrong and we have to correct it. Was it the 10th century, the 6th century, the 5th century, the 14th century, the 15th century? Because the more we go behind, and this is deliberately done, the more we shift focus from our present and our future. We are the only economy contracting for the first time in 45 years, and we have the highest unemployment. It should divert from these issues.
But again, as we have debated extensively, as an academic exercise, if you want to find about your past, find more about your past, that's fine. But then what you politically want to do with it, that is the debating point. Thank you very much for joining us. We are stopping for a short break at this moment. This is a special edition of The Big Fight where we are packing in two debates. Debate 2 on Kashmir up next. Let's now talk about Kashmir, where there is targeted killing, fear, panic and distress over these killings. And the question that we are asking is whether the centre has fumbled in its Kashmir response and what needs to be done. The purpose of this debate is both fault-finding as well as solutions for the future. Utpal Kaul, International Coordinator of the Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora, Abhijit Jasrotia, spokesperson of the BJP, Priyanka Chaturvedi, Rajya Sabha MP and spokesperson of Shiv Sena, who wrote a letter also today, and Professor Geeta Bhatt, political analyst, views lean towards the BJP and the RSS. Thank you very much. Let's start this discussion. Mr. Kaul, what do you think needs to be done? At least, would we begin by admitting and asking this very question, whether the centre's Kashmir strategy has not worked and it has fumbled and something needs to change?
Thank you very much, Sanket, for inviting me for this very important debate. But let me tell you that it was Supreme Court of India in 2008 which asked the Manmohan Singh government what you have done for Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri refugees for these 22 years, what the central government has done. They immediately filed the report that we are going to employ 6,000 Kashmiri Hindus in Kashmir. And they did appoint some 1,500 people, and they were promised moon and sun. But what they did for all these years, that they could not find accommodation for them, and there were no service rules. They were asked to put bond. And so it was such a shame that those people who came as refugees to different parts of India, they were forcibly were asked to write bond so that they will get job in Kashmir. But what happened today, coming to this time, that even after 7 years of our BJP government also, what they should have done, they are also very slow. And now we have met many times, our representatives have met to Lieutenant Governor and to Home Ministry also. Now they have promised us that in short time they are going to provide accommodation, and we were requesting them that we have some young girls living in interiors of Kashmir. They have never been to Kashmir. Their grandfather was born in that village where these girls and young boys were put in there. So it was a scary situation, and we were requesting to central government, both before BJP government, we were requesting National Conference, PDP and Congress government, do some service rule for them. They don't have any, either central government.
Okay, we seem to be losing that audio
state
connection on
government
Mr.
employees.
Utpal
There
Kaul.
should be some kind of-
I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Kaul, but I think we've understood what you're trying to say.
One minute.
Yes.
I just want, now the basic thing is security.
Exactly. The basic point is security, and on that front, that's exactly why I asked this question. The first thing that one has to do, Priyanka Chaturvedi, is to admit that the response is fumbling, that there is a problem. While for the past 3 years, there is an attempt being made to tell the whole world and particularly constituents here in India that everything good is happening in Jammu and Kashmir. That is not the case. There is a problem. And there is an urgent need to review. And by the way, it's not just the Hindus who are dying. Muslims in Kashmir too are victims of targeted killing. Priyanka Chaturvedi. Ms. Chaturvedi, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, I had
Yeah.
muted myself. I'm so used to the idea of muting myself because that's how the government of India works these days. They mute the opposition. But all I'd like to say is, with all due respect to Mr. Kaul has been fighting the cause for the Kashmiri Pandits. What has happened in the Supreme Court during Manmohan Singh's tenure is something which was used politically by the current government. And there is a current government which is in power for past 8 years. Let's not forget, in 2015, the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, had said that he will rehabilitate the Kashmiri Pandits who have been long sufferers of this entire Islamic terrorism that we see in Kashmir, to rehabilitate and also to provide justice to them. And some homes were promised, some jobs were promised, and today we are seeing a position where those who were employed under the Prime Minister's scheme are facing death threats, are facing targeted killings, and are not feeling safe. And that is why you see an entire exodus of Kashmiri Pandits happening, and not just Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus, as well as Hindus coming from other states of India, in the hope that the Prime Minister of India, the government of India, would be able to give them protection. It is not happening. And that is my question to the government of the day, that we have promised them. So when Mr. Kaul says, oh, you promised the sun and the moon and the earth, the Pandits, during Manmohan Singh's tenure, maybe they did, they failed. Today we have a government which promised them the sun, moon, earth and the entire universe. They have failed much more. And today we need to question this. I come from a political party which is Shiv Sena. Shiv Sena, at a time in 1990s when all political parties were playing politics over this entire exodus, we were the only party which was talking about the future of Kashmiri Pandits in other states. We not just rehabilitated them, but we also created an atmosphere where their children could study and they could also become important participants in India's economy and India's growth story.
Okay.
And today we are proud of the fact that we're doing it. And unfortunately, we are facing a situation where 1990s is repeating again. But nobody is challenging the government of the day and asking questions of the government as to why they're not being vocal enough.
Sure.
And after 370,
Mr. Abhijit Jasrotia.
Last 1 second, Sanket, just let me complete. After 370 was revoked, and when they were promised lands and they could buy plots, and when they have come back on the back of that promise, they are not provided the security that they seek.
Okay.
That's my entire point.
Sure. Mr. Jasrotia, you have heard Mr. Kaul, you have heard Priyanka Chaturvedi making her political point. Now I want to ask you...
No, I don't make a political point. I make a point from the perspective of Kashmiri Pandits, Hindus and migrants who have gone there and are now being targeted every single day. And a government which is being silent. This is not political. This is above my politics.
Okay. Abhijit Jasrotia, can we expect at least an admission to begin with that your policy has fumbled and that we are in dire need of a new policy for Kashmir? Both political solutions and policing solutions. Security solutions.
Yeah. Before I start, I would like to respond to Priyanka Chaturvedi. I think it's better to remain mute rather than be a parachute lander in Kashmir, because I have seen many people who keep on saying and trying many things for Kashmir, and they believe more in their theoretical knowledge and other things. We are practically present on the ground and we know what's happening over here. Now coming to the other part of the question.
So please. So is Shiv Sena. They are very much there and working for the people and the cause of Kashmir.
Yeah,
so you cannot come and tell me. I know theory, but I don't know.
You don't know anything about the Kashmir.
My party is working on ground. No, I'm sorry. You don't know anything.
My party has lost more than
my people are suffering.
2 dozen people in Kashmir just for holding that right
no,
alone. My party has lost more than 2 dozen people in Kashmir. I don't think your party has lost even a single person in Kashmir. I don't think you should become. I don't think that you should become an expert in Kashmir. Let me tell you, don't know.
Okay, can I come in, please?
Google, you'll come to know.
This is not the cause of Hindus. And you are the last one to
one moment. Let's please stay on topic, please.
You don't come and give me gyan
Mr. Jasrotia,
Mr.
Jasrotia, I asked you a very pointed question.
No, either he speaks or Kashmir.
Can you please answer my question? The question is, has your policy fumbled? And number two, do you admit that you need a new policy?
Ensure that you'll project a picture of normalcy in Kashmir.
So please tell her NDTV don't believe in such sort of debates.
One moment. Mr. Jasrotia, can you answer my question, please? We have very limited time. Please answer my question. Do you think your policy has fumbled? Do you think you need a new policy on Kashmir? And provide more...
They have no policy. Forget any policy. They have no policy. The only
if she will keep on talking, then what can I say?
And seeking votes out of Kashmir.
Mr. Jasrotia.
No, please. It is better now you mute her. Then only I can take my point. It's better to mute her now.
Why should you mute me? You'll have muted the entire opposition.
I don't think NDTV believes in such sort of
can I please, now please, we have to move on.
NDTV don't believe in such sort of
Mr. Jasrotia, can you answer my question, please? You forget about mute and unmute. Please answer my question. One more. I have to take the debate forward.
The parliament. I was not muted then. I won't be muted here.
Nobody is being muted.
Screaming your lungs out,
Mr. Jasrotia.
Am I allowed to speak? Am I allowed to speak now?
Yes, please answer my question.
Sanket, let me be very clear on this, and I am going to mince no word now. Let me tell you one thing that you cannot compare the apathy of those 30 years with just 3 years of the governance in Jammu and Kashmir now. It's an unfortunate part, whatever has happened, but you can feel that there are many other things which play a very pivotal role in Kashmir. There are Pakistan factories there. Now Pakistan has changed its strategies. They are now sending sticky bombs and other things.
What are you doing to control
Pakistan? Who else is doing then? Who else is doing that? This is Pakistan which is doing all the things over here. So let me complete my point.
Please keep quiet.
Let me complete my point. She knows nothing.
What are you doing?
I really hate such sort of parachute landers in Kashmir. These are the real culprits of the Kashmir. Just due to you people, Kashmiri Pandits are not having a safe life. Just due to you people, Kashmiri Pandits cannot live here because you people are basically the warmongers over here. You are the hate mongers over here. And this is what you are doing. And I will tell you one thing, I don't believe in people like you do. Who don't believe in what we are doing over here. And if you don't have any idea of Kashmir, then please keep. It is better the way you started. Better you mute yourself. Better you mute yourself.
Okay, one moment. This is not going. I'm not getting the answer to the question that I asked.
Sanket, I'm sorry.
Professor Geeta Bhatt.
Sanket, I have to say something.
Yeah, one moment. Professor Geeta Bhatt has not spoken. I'll come back to you.
I'm sorry.
Professor Bhatt.
Sanket, I wanted to add.
Very limited point. Has the policy failed? Do people like Mr. Kaul and other Kashmiris who are suffering over there, victims of targeted killing, do you at least need to promise them a better policy and more security?
I respect Geeta ji, and I'm certain she will speak for the people of Kashmir and the Hindus of Kashmir.
I want to, you see, it is definitely a matter of concern. We have seen, school teachers, Rajini Bala, she was shot right inside the school. And people from common, walks of life, they are losing their lives, which actually shows one thing, that there has been a complete change in the way the terror organizations are operating, where earlier
and that's my question, where was the intelligence?
The police they were targeting the army and the police, but now they started targeting the Hindus in the valley, and
not just Hindus, there are many victims of targeted violence. It includes Muslims also.
Sanket ji, it is because it is their desperation. They are losing their clutches in the valley, and the reason is because the number of changes after 5th of August 2019 in the laws that have taken place, especially in terms of the domicile, in the Union territory. in Jammu and Kashmir and the Decentralization and Recruitment Act to 2020, because of which a large number of people have been able to apply for domicile and have got the domiciles and are able to, get their rights in Kashmir. In 2020, after this act came, 3.7 lakh people had applied and they got their domicile certificate. Today, the number is almost 5 times of this, which also includes 56,000.
Yeah, but this does not include the reality right now.
Who came from
the reality right now is very different.
No, you see, the point is, yes. So definitely, this requires that the government needs to take this seriously and look at a multi-pronged policy, not
exactly.
just in terms
I'm happy that at least you are talking about. You're talking about a better solution.
Self-defense to the, self-defense to the Hindus over there, because we have to be practical. It is not possible, that at every point in time.
No, I don't know what self-defense means, because when a person will come with a gun, what sort of self-defense will you do?
Please, we have listened to you.
Who's stopping you?
Unless, of course, you're talking about having guns in every
you are
household.
interfering in between. Ma'am, please, if you can be
Not
kind
at all.
enough. Let's show
I don't
some
know why
grace.
you're so
You are a Rajya
agitated.
Sabha member, at least behave
I
like
don't know
one.
why you're so
Please.
agitated, Geeta.
No, the way you have been,
I know
trying to...
you'll have no
trying
defense to
your
give.
water boundary and the way you are trying to shout over everyone else. Please don't get it. It does not suit to someone who goes to the parliament and is a part of Rajya Sabha.
As a political
Okay, one moment. This is not good. We're talking about. One moment. I want to come in here. It's very difficult to debate like this. The point is, can we talk about the Kashmiris right now, rather than people on this panel, please?
Exactly.
Professor
I don't know.
Bhatt.
I think I'm a victim of targeting here. I'm sorry.
Professor
There were
Bhatt.
two spokespersons of the BJP
what I'm trying to
coming
say
and targeting.
What I'm trying to say is that it requires now. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, Miss Geeta Bhatt. I expected you to be a political analyst, not a spokesperson of RSS and BJP.
Can you please allow? Can you please allow others to speak? You may be a very intelligent lady, but at least don't undermine others' intelligence. We have a lot of respect for you as a Rajya Sabha member, but you are. When was the last time you went to
And go to Mr. Kaul. One moment. The purpose of this debate was not name calling. The purpose of this debate was to look for a solution.
When was the last time? When did you go to Kashmir? I have not been to Kashmir in a long time, but when did you go to Kashmir? That today you are trying to.
I just want to come and say
I'm
something.
very, very sorry. I'm sorry to say, but that someone who's in Rajya Sabha is behaving in such a manner and trying to monopolize the debate and not allowing anyone else to speak.
Okay. One moment. So can I? Professor Bhatt, one moment. Professor Bhatt, one moment. Then can we now have the debate? Mr. Kaul, I want to come to you now and ask you this question. How do you think that this problem can be solved? What, according to you, in your wisdom, are the steps that the central government can take?
Sanket, first of all, I want to tell through your channel to all the people and all political parties that Kashmir, this time situation, it is very serious and we have to take it very seriously. And it is not question of debate between Congress and BJP. It is not debate between Shiv Sena and BJP. We must work together. And it is very, very important that we work together for making Kashmir peaceful and having tranquility there. Our expectation from central government now is that they must crush terrorism. And crushing of terrorism means that not only killing all these terrorists who are killing, but also killing their mentality. And there is a lot of infrastructure by which they motivate these youngsters. And that is a tragedy that these youngsters, we know that what Pakistan is doing, we know that ISI is doing, but we have to see what we are doing. It is the responsibility of the central government. It is the responsibility of the LG and the police.
Absolutely. I think this is well said. For anyone who feels that there is any other stakeholder or any other person of importance who should be asked these questions, no.
Sanket, give me one.
These questions have to be directed at the center. No one else. No one else. I have completely run out of time, Mr. Kaul.
No, Sanket.
Priyanka Chaturvedi, Professor Bhatt, as well as Mr. Jasrotia. No, the debate has become insanely and intensely personal. The point is, the purpose of this debate was to discuss the problems of Kashmir and look for a solution. We'll take that endeavor forward. Some comments on the coup app as well. A hashtag which says Hindu Yodha has written this comment. What do you think is the problem in Kashmir? Santosh Kumar says, and he's talking about World Bicycle Day. Let's remember that as well. Bicycle is a sustainable, affordable and eco-friendly means of transport that also keeps you fit. All right. With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Big Fight. News continues on the other side. Stay tuned.